If you are past 60 and watching more hair leave on the brush each morning than you remember from last year, this is not aging. It is a mineral shortage your body has been signaling for months, and nothing in the supplement aisle was designed to answer it. Your grandmother never had this problem. And the reason has nothing to do with genetics. It starts on the brush. More than last week. Then the part in the mirror, wider than it was in spring, and you cannot say when that shift began. Then your hand going to your temples and finding less there than you remembered, and a small, quiet moment of deciding not to look too closely at photographs anymore. If any part of that is your morning, stay with me. What I'm going to share today is what my tradition understood about this for generations, what the outside researchers are now beginning to confirm, and why so many women do everything right and still hit a wall they cannot explain. My name is Mary Littlebear. I am a Cherokee elder and traditional healer from eastern Oklahoma, and I have been sitting with my neighbors through illness and restoration for over 60 years. What I know came from a long line of women, 7 generations of healers and mothers who tended their people with what the land and the seasons provided. I want to give you the mechanism first, because once you understand it, the rest of what I share will make sense immediately. After 60, the stomach produces measurably less acid, zinc, the mineral. Every hair follicle depends on to remain in its active growth phase, can only be unlocked from food when stomach acid is present in sufficient supply. So the follicles begin to starve, not because there is nothing on the plate, but because the body's capacity to extract what is on the plate has quietly shifted. The zinc arrives, the absorption does not. Hair that should be growing thins and releases early, and because the change is so gradual, most women never notice the moment it begins. They only notice months later that something has changed. My grandmother never used the word zinc. She knew which morning preparations kept the hair rooted, and she knew that preparing them correctly was as important as gathering them. But the zinc is only half the picture. There is a second layer underneath it that most women are never told about, and I will return to it because it is the reason some women do everything right with the morning preparation and still hit a wall in month 4 that they cannot get past. Hold that. My great-grandmother lived past 90. Her mother reached 87. The women of my family, 5 generations I can name, kept their hair full well into their 70s, and not one of them ever opened a supplement bottle. They called what they did breakfast. The seeds soaked the night before, the dried greens steeped at first light. That was the medicine, and in all those generations of eating from the land, we rarely saw the kind of thinning I now watch spreading through communities that traded those morning tables for something faster. The outside researchers are beginning to arrive at what our tradition has held for a long time. 9 out of 10 women who come to me worried about their hair have been working from the outside in, while the body is asking for something from the inside it has not received in years. What I am going to share moves in a specific order. Each step prepares the body to receive what follows. Stay with me through the end. The deepest foundation, the piece without which none of the morning's work can take full hold, is coming last because that is how the teaching was given to me. Most mornings after 60 run the same familiar shape. Coffee first, something easy, if anything at all. Toast, a packet of something quick. What changed across the last generation is that the mineral-dense morning foods delivering zinc, silica, copper, and iron in forms the body was built to absorb were quietly replaced with foods that carry almost none of those minerals, and in some cases actively slow what little absorption remains. The preparation begins the night before. 1 small handful of raw pumpkin seeds in a bowl of cool water with 1 small spoonful of raw apple cider vinegar left overnight. The soaking breaks down a compound that would otherwise bind the minerals and carry them out unused. A soaked, rinsed pumpkin seed arrives in the body carrying zinc in a form the stomach can receive even when its acid is lower than it once was. Seeds eaten dry give far less. The women of my tradition simply said, wake the seeds before you sleep. To those seeds in the morning, add 1 small spoonful of black sesame. They carry copper and iron alongside trace minerals that support the structure of the hair shaft. Copper helps the body use the iron it has. Iron moves oxygen through the blood to the follicle. When women come to me worried about their hair and mention feeling cold in their hands by late afternoon, iron is part of that picture. Pour a cup of nettle leaf tea alongside. Nettle was one of the most trusted plants in what I was taught. It carries silica, which gives the hair shaft its resistance to breaking, and iron in a form gentle enough that it does not burden the gut. 1 rounded teaspoon of dried nettle in water just off the boil, steeped for 10 to 12 full minutes. The silica releases slowly, and cutting that time short gives you a fraction of what the full steep provides. Eat the seeds before anything else. Drink the tea alongside. Before coffee, before anything else pulls at you. Sit down while you do it. The gut receives food differently in stillness than in motion. I want to tell you about Eleanor. She was 68, a retired librarian from Savannah, Georgia. She came to me after 2.5 years of watching her parting widen. She had tried 2 supplements from the pharmacy and stopped both because they upset her stomach. She was eating carefully. Her gut simply could not extract what she was offering it, and no one had named that. Eleanor began this morning preparation. By month 3, the hair along her temples had filled in by roughly 35% of what she had lost. But then she wrote to me again. She said, "Mary, something has stopped. I am doing everything. Nothing new is coming in. I feel like I have hit a wall." I knew exactly what she was describing. And I will tell you what I told her, but first I need you to understand why that wall exists, because it is the reason the morning preparation alone will carry you most of the way and then hold you there. Please speak with your doctor before changing your routine, particularly if you're managing any health condition or taking medications. Now, if what I have shared so far has been useful to you, take 2 seconds and subscribe to this channel before we go further. I hear from women every week who found a video they needed and could not find their way back. Subscribing means the teaching keeps reaching you. And leave me a comment below with your age and how long you have been noticing changes in your hair. A few months, a few years, longer. I read every single comment on this channel, and what you share teaches me where my neighbors need me most. Now, the wall. After 60, the gut bacteria responsible for breaking down plant minerals and carrying them through the gut wall begin to decline. By the time most women reach their late 60s, they have lost close to half the microbial density they had in their 40s. Probiotics can help restore some of that community, but here is what almost no one explains. Probiotics cannot do their work without prebiotic fiber to feed on. And neither is enough without postbiotics, which are the actual compounds the bacteria produce once they are properly fed, the material the gut lining uses to repair and rebuild itself. Think of a garden. The seeds you plant are the probiotics. The richness of the soil feeding them is the prebiotic fiber. And the harvest the garden produces is the postbiotics. Leave out any one of those, and the garden cannot produce regardless of how much water you give it. This is why so many women take a probiotic for 4 or 5 months and feel almost nothing change. The seeds are going into soil that cannot support them, and there is nothing to harvest. This is where Eleanor had stalled. The minerals were arriving each morning, but the terrain receiving them was too depleted to carry them the rest of the way. 3 habits support the morning preparation before we go further. Wait 30 minutes after the ritual before drinking coffee. Coffee carries compounds that bind to zinc and pull some of it out before absorption completes. My great-grandmother never paired her morning preparations with anything bitter. She said they did not travel well together. The coffee will still be there. Step outside within an hour of eating for a walk rather than exercise. Movement in morning air encourages circulation to the scalp and gut alike. Our people were always outdoors early, always moving in the cool of the morning. But the external habit that matters most is the one that reveals the internal limit. Once a week, warm sesame oil and apply it to the scalp before sleep. The external practice carries real value and you will feel it. But it works as well as the inner terrain allows. Tend the scalp with every care and still limit your results if the body cannot carry the work forward. The outer and the inner are not separate. This brings me to what I want to tell you about my own search. I spent 2 years looking for something that brought the full 3-part picture together. Not a capsule. Many of my neighbors cannot tolerate capsules, and asking the gut to receive something hard and compressed before it has had a chance to settle into the morning is not the tradition I was raised in. I needed something the body could receive the way it receives food. Something that carried the prebiotic fiber and the probiotics and the postbiotics working together the way the garden needs all 3, and that included the traditional plants I had used alongside gut restoration my entire career. I found it, and what happened when Eleanor added it, I did not expect to happen quite as quickly as it did. What I found is BoochBod. It is a kombucha gummy in a berry flavor, not a pill, which matters more than it might seem. The gummy form means the gut begins receiving it before it reaches the stomach. The way certain traditional preparations were always given informs the mouth could begin to break down. It carries all three parts, the prebiotic fiber, the probiotics, and the postbiotics, including two carefully studied strains, lactospore and postbiotics LM1004. It also carries dandelion root, which the women of my tradition gathered every spring and called one of the great cleansers for the gut and the liver both, and slippery elm for the lining itself. Over 30,000 people are now using it. There is a 60-day guarantee on every order. If you begin and do not see what you came for, you are not out anything. That matters to me. I would not recommend it otherwise. And every month you wait is a month the follicle spends without the terrain it needs to receive what the morning preparation is offering. The body responds to what it is given now. Starting tonight matters more than starting next month. Eleanor added BoochBod in month 4. By month 6, she wrote to me again. The hair she had described as stalled had continued filling in. She had recovered close to 65% of what she had lost. She said, "Mary, I almost accepted the wall as the answer. I am glad I did not. The link is in the description below. Now I want to say the deepest thing I know about this, the foundation our tradition called the peace without which the rest cannot hold. The hair follicle is not a quick system. The cycle from a follicle waking to a visible strand on the surface takes 3 to 4 months. What you do this morning does not show today. It shows in the mirror in the spring if you are doing it now in the autumn. Our tradition understood time this way. You plant and you wait and you trust the soil you have prepared. Stopping at week 3 is like pulling seeds from the spring garden 2 weeks after planting to check whether they sprouted. You must outlast the part of the process happening underground. I want to tell you about Catherine. She is 77, a former seamstress from Hot Springs, Arkansas. She came to me after 5 years of progressive thinning. She had tried biotin, 2 topical treatments, and a probiotic she took for 4 months before stopping. What had been missed was the full picture. Her gut terrain was too depleted, and she had never stayed with any practice long enough for the follicles to complete a full cycle. We started the morning preparation and added BoochBod alongside it from week 1, building the terrain and delivering the minerals together. We asked her to commit to 6 months before deciding whether it was working. At month 4, she saw new growth along her hairline for the first time in 5 years. At month 6, her hairdresser asked what she had changed. Catherine had recovered close to 50% of the volume she had lost. She said, "Mary, I almost stopped at 3 months. I had almost decided nothing was happening. I want every woman to know the change was happening. It was just happening where I could not yet see it." The researchers outside our tradition are studying what our people held as settled knowledge for generations. That sustained mineral restoration through food, carried forward over 3 to 6 months, supports measurable changes in follicle activity. The laboratories are arriving at what was practiced in these hills long before they arrived with their instruments. 2 things before we close. Consistency over amount. A small bowl of soaked seeds every morning for 90 days will do more than 3 large servings taken once a week. The follicle needs a steady signal, not an occasional flood. Regularity is the message the body reads as safety, and the single mistake that costs the most, stopping at 30 days because nothing is visible. The follicle cycle takes 3 to 4 months. Every woman who has seen real change from this practice stayed through the part where nothing appeared to be happening. That is where the work was actually occurring. What I want you to carry from today is this. This was never really about hair. The hair is the message the body sends. What you're truly protecting is the woman who presses her bare feet into the garden soil in the early morning and knows each plant by touch. The woman whose grandchildren press into her side at the table and will carry the memory of her warmth their whole lives. The woman who steps forward when someone calls her name for the photograph. It is never too late. I have watched women in their late 70s begin this practice and see real change within a season. The body keeps wanting to heal. What it needs is to receive what it has been asking for. Give it that, and it will answer. Here's what to carry. The core trouble after 60 is not the minerals missing from food, but the body's changed capacity to receive them through lower stomach acid and a depleted gut terrain that cannot finish the delivery. The morning preparation of soaked pumpkin seeds, black sesame, and nettle leaf tea begins restoring the mineral supply in a form the changed stomach can receive. The gut terrain, built with all three parts working together, is what allows the preparation to complete its work. Without it, you will reach a wall. BoochBod brought the full three-part picture together in a form my tradition could stand behind. The link is in the description below. There is a 60-day guarantee. Begin tonight if you are ready. And if you want these teachings to keep reaching you, subscribe to this channel. I will be here. Until next time, take good care of the body that carries you.